All right, let's talk about something that I am pretty sure gets all of us at some point, getting stuck in that mental spin cycle of overthinking. Today, we're going to dig into how to break that cycle, not by fighting with our own thoughts, but by seeing overthinking for what it really is, just a habit. And any habit can be changed.
You know that feeling, right? It's 3 in the morning and you're wide awake, replaying some tiny conversation from earlier in the day. You're picking apart every single word, every pause, thinking, why didn't I say that instead? It is absolutely exhausting. And that feeling right there, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So let's get into it. What is actually happening in our brains when we get trapped like that? It's time to peel back the layers and really look at the mechanics of this mental loop.
First things first, overthinking isn't just, thinking a lot. It's a very specific kind of pattern. It's prolonged, it's repetitive, and yeah, it is almost always negative. I love this analogy. It's like running a mental marathon. You're putting in all this effort, you're getting completely exhausted, but you finish right back where you started, having gone absolutely nowhere. And it turns out overthinking kind of has two main flavors. On one hand, you've got rumination. That's when you're stuck in the past, endlessly replaying mistakes or old hurts. And on the other hand, you have worry. That's all about the future, constantly asking, but what if? They're really just two sides of the very same unproductive coin. And this brings us to a super important point. Overthinking is not the same thing as deep, productive thinking, not even close. See, overthinking is fueled by fear, and all it does is lead to exhaustion and feeling stuck. Deep thinking, though, that's fueled by curiosity, and that leads to actual insights and growth. One keeps you stuck in the mud, the other helps you find a path forward. But here's the thing. This mental habit, it's more than just a little annoyance. It has real, tangible costs to our health and well-being that seriously stack up over time. When you're constantly overthinking, you have to realize it's not just happening in your head. You are physically keeping your brain and your body in a constant state of alert, of fight or flight. You're basically marinating yourself in stress hormones, and that has some pretty serious consequences.
Over time, that constant stress takes a massive emotional toll. It can show up as just a persistent bad mood, or that nagging inner critic in your head just gets louder and louder. It makes it almost impossible to concentrate. It can even steal your ability to feel joy, leaving you in a state of complete and total emotional burnout.
And it doesn't stop there. That stress shows up in your body, too. We're talking a weaker immune system, higher blood pressure, a greater risk of heart problems. It can even contribute to things like chronic pain or migraines. This is the ultimate proof. What happens in your mind does not stay in your mind. Okay, I know, that all sounds pretty heavy, but stick with me because here comes the turning point. This is the aha moment. This is where we reframe the entire problem. Because the key to solving this isn't fighting harder, it's understanding how our brains actually form habits. Let me ask you a kind of a weird question. What if not thinking about what you were doing was actually a superpower? I know it sounds completely backward. We're always told to be thoughtful. But what if, sometimes, going on autopilot was a massive advantage? Think about it like learning to drive a car. Remember at first, you had to think about everything. The pedals, the mirrors, the steering wheel. It took all of your concentration. But now, you probably just get in and go. Your brain automated it. It turned it into a habit. And that's an incredible skill, because it frees up all that brain power for other things. And here it is. This is the single most important idea to grab onto. Overthinking isn't a personality trait. It is not who you are. It is simply a bad mental habit that your brain learned and got really efficient at. And the most empowering news in the world is that any habit that can be learned can also be unlearned. So, if it's just a habit, how the heck do we break it? Let's get really practical. Here's a simple, incredibly powerful 3-step framework you can start using today. It's really that straightforward. 3 steps. Notice the pattern, disrupt the cycle, and replace it with something better. Let's break down each one. Step 1, notice. And honestly, this is the hardest, but also the most crucial step. You can't change something if you don't realize you're doing it. And the key is to do it without judgment. You're not beating yourself up. You're just an observer going, there's my brain doing that looping thing again. That simple moment of awareness is everything. Okay, once you've noticed the loop, you gotta break its momentum. That's step 2, disrupt. And you can't just yell stop at your brain. We all know that usually makes it worse. Instead, you just gently interrupt the pattern. You introduce something new to break the rhythm. All you need is a tiny gap in that cycle to get some breathing room.
And finally, step 3, replace. Because your brain loves an easy path and it will want to go right back to that old worn out groove. So you have to give it a new, better path to follow. You're not just stopping the bad habit, you are actively and consciously building a new, healthier one to take its place. So, what do disrupting and replacing actually look like in the real world? Let's load up your mental toolkit with some simple, proven strategies you can start using right away.
Here is a perfect example of a simple disruptor. The moment you feel yourself starting to spiral, just pause and say this to yourself. These are thoughts, not facts. Seriously, it's so simple, but that little phrase instantly creates some critical distance between you and the story your brain is telling you.
Need something to pull you out of your head fast? This grounding exercise is an amazing tool. It forces your brain to stop spinning on the past or future and anchor itself in the present moment. Just quickly name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can physically feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It's like an emergency brake for an overthinking mind. And here's what that replace step looks like in action. Same situation. You didn't get the job you wanted. The old overthinking habit goes straight to self-blame. I must have said something wrong. I'm just not good enough. But the new habit, the deep thinking mindset, reframes it with curiosity. Okay, what can I learn from this? Maybe I can ask for feedback to get better for next time. It's the same event, but a totally different and way more empowering response.
And listen, your replacement toolkit can be huge. You can try journaling, just getting all those swirling thoughts out of your head and onto paper. Or get up and move. Physical activity is one of the fastest ways to shift your mental state. You could try a simple gratitude practice, or even just take a 5-minute walk outside. Research shows that even a little bit of time in nature can dramatically reduce that rumination load.
So in the end, it all comes down to this. You can't always control the first thought that pops into your head. Our brains are weird like that. But you have 100% of the power over the second thought. You have the power to choose what you do next. You can notice, you can disrupt, and you can replace. So the question isn't how to stop your thoughts. The real question is, what are you going to choose to think next?